Section 315 is reducing the number of foreign military bases. According to an article published this month by the Soldier Project, the U.S. has about 750 foreign military bases. They're divided into 11 regions around the world. Central Command is estimated to have 45 to 65,000 troops across the Gulf, the Persian Gulf. In Europe, we have estimated 33,000 troops in Germany. In the Indo-Pacific Command, we're estimated to have 50 to 55,000 troops in Japan, and then another 26,000 troops in South Korea. We have troops all over the world. These troops in Germany and Japan obviously have been there since World War II. Since Joe Biden was a toddler, we have had these troops stationed there. And so at some point, we need to reevaluate, like, what does the end game look like? How many decades, how many lifetimes will those troops be stationed overseas? Similarly, we've got in South Korea, the 26,000. Like, it is, I guess I would say it is understandable North Korea's apprehension about the United States when we have 26,000 troops stationed right on their border, plus another 50,000 in Japan, just a couple hours away. And so we can de-escalate tensions by reducing our number of foreign military bases. Just to put this in context with the rest of the world, Russia, how many foreign military bases Russia has? About 3 dozen. So we've got more than 20 times as many foreign military bases as Russia. China has 5. We have more than 100 times as many foreign military bases as China. So reducing the number of these is essential to ending the endless wars. Now, this is a legislative package. Obviously, there is a lot of nuance in foreign policy. And so what this is about is establishing a principle, again, as a place to start. Where is the low-hanging fruit when it comes to reducing the number of foreign military bases? And so this section offers a basic principle that if the local people want us to leave, we should leave. That just seems pretty basic and respectful to make sure that we are still wanted everywhere that we are. And so Section 515 sets up, it requires the Secretary of Defense to hold local referenda around each of these foreign military bases and essentially put the question to the native population: do you want the United States military to remain here? And if they say no, then these referenda would have to be held within 1 year. And if they want us to leave, then we have another year to make that happen. So it's a 2-step, 2-year plan. Now, when holding these referenda, we want to demonstrate American democracy in the best way possible. And so secret ballots, it requires that secret ballots be used in such a manner to prevent intimidation, coercion, or reprisals in regards to casting ballots. It ensures that they'll be printed in local language or languages, that they'll be publicized for no less than 60 days before voting concludes, and that the franchise voting shall include both men and women of adult age to the fullest extent possible. Again, in some places, this may be an opportunity to demonstrate democracy. And so we want to make it as the best demonstration possible. As far as who'd be able to vote, the eligible voters includes the residential population within 5 miles of the base, any business owners who are within 5 miles of the base, any local residents who work on the base, and then residents of any larger villages, towns, or cities within 5 to 15 miles of the base. The Secretary would also be authorized to include any other groups that have ties to the base, as long as anyone who fits into these categories only gets 1 vote. This section directs the Secretary to seek the cooperation and approval of the local government in holding the referenda, but they would still be required to carry it out. And by the end of 2023, Secretary shall develop a base closure plan that will respect these preferences, and by October 30th, 2024, complete that base closure plan. Now, there's a lot of things that could be done with some of these military bases. Like, we have a huge, huge refugee problem in the world. right? A lot of these things can be repurposed for more humane purposes. There's a lot of good that could be done with them. But first, we need to settle and start addressing the fundamental question of how many foreign military bases should the United States have around the world? And while this legislation doesn't set a concrete answer, it recognizes that 750 is too many, and that when it comes to closing them down, the low-hanging fruit, the place to start, is places where the local population want us there. And so that's what Section 315 does. With that, Mixed Chair, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Yes. Are there additional election security provisions that you didn't mention, such as requiring that counts of the votes happen locally in a decentralized manner?
I recognize that voting and elections are an important issue to you. No, the safeguards that I mentioned are the only ones that are listed in the bill. I'd be happy to work with the subcommittee on adding additional protections and safety if they think that's necessary.
Fantastic. I do have an email from Tony in California with a question, a little long. Military bases are placed with agreements with foreign states. While allowing the people a referendum is good publicity, you are asking a politician to dismantle U.S. geopolitical and economic power. I would like to see nothing more than my brothers and sisters called home, but the power vacuum and strategic economic access that we have are a stabilizing force. This is one of the most difficult problems the United States has because of the reality of our current geopolitical reality. Won't any politician that supports this will be hammered on the power vacuum problem?
Yeah, I mean, those are clearly legitimate questions and concerns. But again, going back to the example of Germany and Japan, we've had our troops there. We've had these foreign military bases since World War II. Like, how many decades is this going to go on? At some point, we need to confront the reality. And if we set the goal of ending the endless wars, issues need to be addressed. Yeah, it is true that the United States has determined the geopolitical reality with our global military footprint. As a father, I kind of think of this as, when my kids grow up, it's easy when they're young because I'm the parent, I set the rules for the household, and it just is what it is. And that is the geopolitical reality. But as kids grow up, I have to be willing to share some of that decision-making authority. I have to be willing to let other people have input in how the household is run. And as my kids become adults, give them decision-making authority over their own affairs. That's part of life. And as a parent, that's what I want. I don't want to micromanage my kids' lives from now until eternity. I want, them to be able to deal with their affairs on their own. And so to the extent that the United States is the steward of world security, our goal should be not to be. Our goal should be to encourage the development and growing up of nations around the world where people can handle their own affairs without us needing hundreds and hundreds of foreign military bases and a $750 billion annual budget for the military. Won't any politician who supports this get hammered on the power vacuum problem? Possibly. But that's why this is part of a package deal. End poverty, end mass incarceration, and the endless wars. And not everyone likes everything in this legislative package, just like the framers didn't like everything that was in the Constitution, but they recognized something had to be done. Something had to change to make sure that America was a functional country. And once again, in 2022, it's time for us to make some changes and to ensure that we remain a functional country, a functional democracy. And so to the extent that a politician may not like these provisions, they're going to have to ask themselves, is this a deal breaker? Would they rather keep tens of millions of Americans living in poverty and millions of Americans waking up behind bars? Would they rather all these other problems continue to exist rather than also fix this problem in a way that is less preferable? again, this legislative package is driven by Martin Luther King's, radical revolution of values of addressing poverty, racism, and militarism. And as I quoted earlier, the costs of militarism, just even to our national psyche, are great indeed, and they need to be rethought and readdressed. And so that's what this section does.